They say you never really know someone until you see them at their worst. I used to think that was just something bitter people told themselves after a bad breakup. I was wrong. Dead wrong. My name is Daniel Foster, and for 15 years, I thought I had it all figured out. A beautiful wife, two amazing kids, a house in the suburbs with a white picket fence, the whole American dream package. I worked hard as a regional sales director for a pharmaceutical company, pulling in a solid six-figure income that kept us comfortable. My wife, Jennifer, stayed home with our kids, Emma and Tyler, ages 12 and 9. We had date nights, family vacations to Disney World, and a circle of friends we'd barbecue with on weekends. From the outside looking in, we were the couple everyone envied. But here's the thing about facades. They're designed to hide what's rotting underneath. And what was rotting in my marriage turned out to be far worse than I could have ever imagined. This isn't a story about a moment of weakness or a drunken mistake. This is a story about calculated deception, systematic betrayal, and the kind of lies that don't just break hearts, they shatter entire lives. When I discovered the truth, it didn't come as a dramatic revelation or a caught-in-the-act moment. It came in pieces, like a puzzle I didn't even know I was solving, until suddenly the picture became horrifyingly clear. What made it worse was how blind I'd been. All the signs were there, scattered across months like breadcrumbs leading to the inevitable conclusion. The late-night book club meetings, the new gym membership, and sudden interest in expensive lingerie. The way she'd started putting her phone face down on every surface. I'd noticed these things, sure, but I'd explained them away with the kind of willful ignorance that only a trusting husband can muster. She deserved hobbies, I told myself. She deserved to feel good about herself. Never once did I consider that feeling good about herself might involve someone else's hands on her body. The real kicker? The affair wasn't just about sex or some midlife crisis. It was about money, manipulation, and a level of betrayal that would ultimately cost me far more than my marriage. Jennifer hadn't just stepped out on our vows, she'd been systematically dismantling our financial future, piece by piece, while I worked 60-hour weeks to provide for our family. And her accomplice? Well, that's where this story gets really interesting. I should have known something was off on that Tuesday in March. Jennifer had been unusually cheerful that morning, humming while she made breakfast, something she hadn't done in months. She'd even made my favorite, blueberry pancakes with real maple syrup, not the cheap stuff we usually bought. "What's the occasion?" I asked, sliding into my chair at the kitchen table. "Can't a wife just do something nice for her husband?" She smiled. That same smile that had made me fall in love with her 16 years ago at Ohio State. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she wore yoga pants and a fitted tank top that showed off the results of all those gym sessions. "Of course," I said, digging into the pancakes. "These are amazing, Jen." Emma rushed downstairs, backpack bouncing against her shoulders. "Mom, did you sign my permission slip for the field trip?" "Already in your folder, sweetie," Jennifer said, kissing the top of our daughter's head. It was such a normal morning. So perfectly, painfully normal. That's what I remember most about it now. The absolute ordinariness of everything, even as my world was already crumbling around me without my knowledge. I left for work at 7:30, same as always. My territory covered 3 states, which meant a lot of driving and even more hotel rooms. That particular week, I was scheduled to be in Columbus for meetings with hospital administrators, trying to push our new cardiac medication line. It was important, a potential $1 million account, and I'd been preparing for weeks. "I'll be back Friday night," I told Jennifer, kissing her goodbye at the door. "Love you." "Love you too," she said, and I swear to God there wasn't even a flicker of guilt in her eyes. The drive to Columbus took about 2 hours. I spent most of it on conference calls, reviewing presentation materials in my head, doing what I always did, working, providing, being the responsible one. I checked into the Hampton Inn around 10 and immediately headed to my first meeting. The thing about sales is that you learn to read people. You watch for micro-expressions, listen for hesitation in voices, pick up on the subtle cues that tell you whether someone's interested or just being polite. I was good at my job precisely because I could sense when something was off. So why the hell couldn't I sense it in my own marriage? That night, I called home around 8. Tyler answered, breathless and excited about some video game he'd been playing. "Where's Mom?" I asked. "Book club," he said. "She left like an hour ago. Grammy's here watching us." Jennifer's mother, Patricia, got on the line. "Hi, Danny. Don't worry, I've got everything under control here." "Thanks, Patricia. Tell Jen I called?" "Will do, sweetheart." Book club. She went every other Tuesday. Had been going for about 6 months now. A group of neighborhood women getting together to discuss literature and drink wine. It seemed harmless, even healthy. I was glad she had something for herself. Except there was no book club. I should have known something was off that Tuesday night. I'd checked into the Hampton Inn around 6, grabbed a mediocre chicken sandwich from the hotel restaurant, and settled in to prep for Wednesday's presentation. The cardiac medication line was my bread and butter. I could pitch it in my sleep. But Dr. Paulson at Mount Carmel East was notoriously detail-oriented, the kind of guy who'd grill you on clinical trial data from 5 years ago. Around 8:30, my phone buzzed. "Jennifer. Missing you already. Kids are asleep. Heading to book club now. Love you." I texted back a quick heart emoji and returned to my PowerPoint slides. Here's what I didn't know. While I was highlighting statistics on reduced cardiac events, Jennifer was driving across town to the Marriott on Polaris Parkway. While I was double-checking my talking points about patient outcomes, she was meeting someone in room 447. While I was being the responsible one, again, she was doing things I still can't think about without my stomach turning. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The next morning, I nailed the presentation. Dr. Paulson signed a 3-year contract that would add roughly $200,000 to my annual numbers. I called Jennifer from the parking lot, riding the high of a major win. "That's wonderful, honey." Her voice was warm, genuine sounding. "I'm so proud of you." "Couldn't have done it without you holding down the fort at home," I said, because that's what I believed, that we were a team, that while I was out there winning contracts, she was managing our household, raising our kids, being my partner. God, I was an idiot. "That's what marriage is about," she said. "Supporting each other." The irony would have killed me if I'd known. I got home Friday afternoon around 3. Jennifer was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner. She'd made pot roast, my favorite. The house smelled like home, like comfort, like everything I thought my life was. "Daddy!" Tyler came barreling around the corner, nearly knocking me over. "Can we go to GameStop tomorrow? There's a new expansion for—" "Let your father breathe," Jennifer said, smiling at me over Tyler's head. She was wearing jeans and a soft blue sweater that matched her eyes. Beautiful. Deceptive. "Maybe Sunday, buddy," I said, ruffling his hair. "Let me recover from the road first." Emma appeared more cautiously, 12-year-old cool firmly in place. "How was the trip?" "Successful," I said. "Very successful." "That's good." She gave me a quick hug, still willing to show affection but carefully rationed now that she was on the edge of teenage years. "Mom said if you close the deal, we might go to the beach this summer." I glanced at Jennifer, who shrugged with a smile. I might have mentioned Outer Banks as a possibility. "Let's see how the next quarter goes," I said, but I was already mentally calculating. We could afford it. Between my salary and bonuses, money wasn't tight. We had a comfortable cushion in savings, retirement accounts on track, college funds for both kids growing steadily. What I didn't know, what I had no way of knowing, was that our savings account wasn't as healthy as I thought. That Jennifer had been making withdrawals, small ones at first, then larger. Nothing dramatic enough to trigger alerts, but steady. Systematic. But that discovery was still weeks away. That night, after the kids were in bed, Jennifer and I sat on the couch watching some forgettable movie on Netflix. She curled against me, her head on my shoulder, her hand resting on my chest. "I'm glad you're home," she said quietly. "Me too. I know the travel is hard. I know you're doing it for us." I kissed the top of her head. "Always." She tilted her face up to mine, and we kissed. Soft, familiar. 16 years of history in that kiss. Or so I thought. "Let's go to bed," she whispered. We made love that night. Gentle, comfortable, the kind of intimacy that comes from years of knowing someone's body, their rhythms, their preferences, She seemed present, engaged, loving. I fell asleep believing I was the luckiest man alive. The next morning, Saturday, Jennifer announced she was meeting her book club friends for brunch. On a Saturday? I asked, pouring coffee. Stephanie's birthday, she said smoothly. We're taking her to that new place downtown, the one with the bottomless mimosas. Sounds fun. What time will you be back? Probably around 2. We might do a little shopping after. Take your time, I said. I'll hang with the kids. She kissed me goodbye, grabbed her purse, a new one I noticed, expensive-looking leather, and left. I spent the day being dad. Took Tyler to GameStop like I'd promised, sat through Emma's elaborate explanation of some drama happening with her friend group, made grilled cheese sandwiches for lunch. Normal, boring, perfect. Jennifer came home around 3, carrying shopping bags from Nordstrom. Productive afternoon? I asked. Very. She showed me a dress, navy blue, elegant, definitely not cheap. For the charity gala next month, what do you think? Beautiful, I said, because it was. How much? On sale, she said, which wasn't an answer. I used my own money. Her own money. That should have been a red flag right there. Jennifer didn't have her own money in any meaningful sense. We had a joint checking account. I deposited my paychecks, she managed household expenses, we both had credit cards tied to the same accounts. The system worked because we trusted each other. But apparently Jennifer had developed a separate financial stream I knew nothing about. One that would eventually lead me down a rabbit hole I never saw coming. As long as you're happy, I said. I am. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and went upstairs to put her purchases away. The weeks that followed were more of the same. I traveled. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, back to Columbus, down to Cincinnati. Jennifer maintained her routines. Book club every other Tuesday, occasional weekend brunches with the girls, gym sessions 3 times a week, yoga on Thursdays. I worked 60-hour weeks, closed deals, exceeded quotas, climbed the corporate ladder one pharmaceutical contract at a time. And Jennifer? Well, Jennifer was building something else entirely. A whole separate life I couldn't see, funded by money I didn't know was missing, centered around someone whose name I hadn't even heard yet. The thing about betrayal is that it's happening in real time, right under your nose, and you just don't see it. You're too close, too trusting, too invested in believing the narrative you've built together. I'd come home from business trips and ask about book club. She'd tell me about whatever novel they'd supposedly discussed. Always plausible, always detailed enough to sound real. I'd ask about her friends. She'd share little anecdotes about Stephanie or Rachel or whoever else she'd invented or co-opted for her cover story. Looking back, I can see the gaps. The times she was vague about specific details. The way she'd change the subject if I pressed too hard. The new clothes that appeared in her closet. The upgraded phone she bought because her old one was dying. The manicures and hair appointments that seemed more frequent. But in the moment, I saw a woman taking care of herself, getting out of the house, maintaining friendships, being more than just mom. I thought I was being a supportive husband. Turns out I was being a fool. The truth started unraveling on a Thursday in late April. Not with a dramatic confrontation or catching her in a lie, but with something far more mundane, a package delivery mistake. I started paying attention to the money in early May. Not because I suspected anything, God, I wish I could say I was that perceptive, but because I was trying to figure out what to get Jennifer for our anniversary in June. 15 years deserved something special, and I'd been thinking about maybe surprising her with a weekend getaway. Somewhere nice, maybe the Outer Banks, or that bed and breakfast in Vermont she'd mentioned once. So I logged into our savings account one evening after the kids were in bed. Jennifer was in the shower, I could hear the water running upstairs, and I had my laptop open at the kitchen table, scrolling through our Bank of America account. The balance was lower than I expected. Not alarmingly low. We still had a comfortable cushion. But I could have sworn we'd had around $43,000 in there the last time I'd checked, back in February. Now it showed $36,000 and change. $7,000. Gone. I frowned at the screen, clicking through the transaction history. There were the usual automated transfers from checking, 500 a month like clockwork. My quarterly bonus deposit from January. A withdrawal in March for $4,000. Another in April for $3,000. I sat back in my chair, trying to remember what we'd spent that money on. The furnace had needed some work in March, but that had only been around $1,200. I'd paid that from checking, I was pretty sure. What else? Had Jennifer mentioned some expense I'd forgotten about? The shower shut off upstairs. I pulled up our checking account in another tab. That balance looked normal. Maybe a little lower than usual, but nothing dramatic. I went through those transactions too. Mortgage, utilities, her gym membership at $89 a month, groceries, gas, the kids' school expenses. And then I saw them. Small charges, scattered throughout March and April. Nordstrom, like I'd known about. That dress had been $340. But there were others. Tiffany & Co., $580. Another Nordstrom charge, $220. Saks Fifth Avenue, $890. A place called Seasons, $52, $180. Another restaurant, Sullivan's Steakhouse, $240. I heard Jennifer's footsteps on the stairs. My heart was doing this weird thing where it felt too heavy and too fast at the same time. I closed the laptop just as she came into the kitchen, her blonde hair wet and combed back, wearing one of my old Ohio State t-shirts that came down to mid-thigh. "Hey," she said, smiling. "What are you up to?" "Just finishing some emails," I said. The lie came out smooth. Natural. "How was your shower?" "Good. I needed it after yoga." She moved to the refrigerator, pulling out a bottle of white wine. "Want a glass?" "Sure." I watched her pour 2 glasses of Pinot Grigio, her movements easy and relaxed. She handed me one and sat down across from me at the table, curling her legs underneath her. "So I was thinking," she said, "maybe this summer we could take the kids to the beach? Emma's been asking about Ocean City and Tyler would love it." "Yeah," I said. "That sounds great." She sipped her wine, looking at me over the rim of the glass. "You okay? You seem distracted." "Long day," I said. "Peterson's been writing me about the quarterly numbers." This was true, actually. My boss had been on my case all week about projections for the cardiac medication line. It just wasn't what I was thinking about right then. Jennifer reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You work too hard," she said softly. "You know that?" I looked at her hand on mine. Her wedding ring caught the light from the pendant fixture above us. White gold with 3 small diamonds. I'd bought it 16 years ago, saving up for 3 months to afford it. "Somebody's got to," I said, trying to make it sound light. She laughed, withdrawing her hand. "I know, and we appreciate it. The kids and me, I hope you know that." "I do." We sat there for a few minutes, drinking our wine in comfortable silence. Or what should have been comfortable silence. Instead, I kept thinking about those numbers. 7,000 from savings. Another 2,000, give or take, from checking on things I couldn't quite account for. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice casual, "did we have some big expense recently that I'm forgetting about?" I was looking at the accounts and, "Oh, right," Jennifer interrupted, setting down her glass. "I meant to tell you about that. My mom needed some help with her property taxes. They went up this year and she was short." I blinked. "Your mom needed help?" "Yeah." She was embarrassed to ask, but you know how she is. Too proud for her own good. Jennifer shook her head affectionately. "I told her we were happy to help. It was about 4,000. I should have mentioned it, but I didn't want to bother you when you were dealing with that hospital system in Cleveland." That had been in March. The timing lined up with one of the withdrawals. "And the other 3,000? "Car insurance," she said without hesitation. "They wanted the full year paid up front for some discount. Saved us like $200. I nodded slowly. That made sense. We'd switched insurance companies in April, now that I thought about it. Jennifer had handled it. She handled most of the household admin stuff while I was traveling. "Right," I said. "I forgot about that." "See?" She smiled, standing up and moving around the table to stand behind my chair. Her hands settled on my shoulders, thumbs working into the muscles at the base of my neck. "You're carrying too much in that head of yours. You need to delegate, remember? That's what you're always telling your sales team." Her hands felt good, familiar. I let my eyes close, feeling some of the tension ease out of my shoulders. "You're right," I said. "I usually am," she teased, leaning down to kiss the top of my head. "Come on, let's go to bed. You look exhausted." I followed her upstairs, leaving my laptop on the kitchen table. But later, lying in the dark with Jennifer asleep beside me, her breathing slow and even, I kept thinking about those numbers. The explanation made sense. It really did. Her mom's property taxes, the insurance payment, perfectly reasonable. So why couldn't I shake the feeling that something was off? I thought about the other charges, Tiffany's, Saks, those expensive restaurants. Jennifer had said the purse and the dress were from her own money she'd saved from the household budget, she'd explained when I'd asked about the Nordstrom bag, being smart about shopping sales and using coupons. But Tiffany's? When had she been to Tiffany's? I turned my head slightly, looking at her profile in the darkness. She looked peaceful, beautiful. The same woman I'd been waking up next to for 15 years. They say you never really know someone until you see them under pressure, until you see what they do when they think no one's watching. I was about to find out just how true that was. Because 3 weeks later, on a Tuesday afternoon in late May, a FedEx driver would ring our doorbell and hand me a package that wasn't meant for me. A laptop, sent from Jennifer's old employer, the pharmaceutical company she'd worked for before Emma was born, before she'd decided to stay home with the kids. Except Jennifer hadn't worked there in 12 years. And that laptop was going to answer every question I'd been too afraid to ask. The FedEx driver was already backing out of my driveway when I pulled in that evening. A medium-sized box sat on the front porch, the kind of corporate shipping that comes with signature requirements and tracking numbers that get checked every hour. I picked it up. Heavy. The return label read, MedTech Solutions, Asset Recovery Department, Philadelphia, PA. MedTech Solutions. Jennifer's old employer. The pharmaceutical company where she'd worked as a sales rep before Emma was born, back when we were both grinding our way up the corporate ladder. She'd left 12 years ago to stay home with the kids, and we'd both agreed it made sense. My salary was higher, her commute was longer, and someone needed to be there for the school pickups and sick days. I turned the box over in my hands. Why the hell would they be sending something now, over a decade later? The label was addressed to Jennifer Foster, but my name appeared in the secondary recipient field. Probably some clerical error. They'd pulled her file, saw our home address, and auto-populated both names from some ancient HR database. I stood there on the porch, keys in one hand, box in the other. The rational part of my brain said to just bring it inside and let Jennifer open it when she got home from wherever she'd gone today. Probably the gym. Maybe Target. Maybe book club, even though it wasn't Tuesday. The other part of my brain, the part that had been cataloging every inconsistency, every lie, every unexplained charge for the past 2 months, said something different. I went inside. The house was empty. Jennifer's car was gone. A note on the kitchen counter. Took the kids to Grammy's for the afternoon. Back by 6, dinner at 7, XOXO. I checked my watch. 4:15 p.m. I had time. The box opened easily enough, just a pull tab on the FedEx packaging. Inside was a laptop case, the kind companies issue to employees, with the MedTech Solutions logo embossed on the front. A smaller envelope sat on top, sealed with the company's security tape. I opened the envelope first. Dear Ms. Foster, as part of our 7-year asset retention policy review, we have identified the following company property issued to you during your employment, 2006-2012. Dell Latitude, D630 laptop, serial, or Beamer, MTX 2847JF. AC adapter. Carrying case. Our records indicate this equipment was not returned upon your departure. While we understand this oversight occurred many years ago, we are required to attempt asset recovery before final disposition. Please note, this laptop may contain proprietary company information and client data. If you wish to retain any personal files, please transfer them within 14 days. After that period, we will require the laptop to be returned for secure data destruction, or we will remotely wipe the device. If you have already disposed of this equipment, please complete the attached asset disposition form. Thank you for your cooperation. Regards, Stephen Walsh, Asset Recovery Specialist, MedTech Solutions. I read it twice. Something about it felt off. If they were trying to recover the laptop, why send it to her? The letter said they wanted it back, but they'd just mailed it to her? That made no sense. Unless they'd found it. Maybe in a storage facility they were clearing out, or an old office being renovated. Maybe they'd discovered it, saw her name on the asset tag, and shipped it back with instructions to either return it or confirm it had been destroyed. I unzipped the laptop case. The Dell was old, ancient by tech standards. The kind of bulky black plastic brick they issued to corporate employees in the late 2000s. A few scratches on the lid. A MedTech Solutions asset tag on the bottom with Jennifer's employee ID number. I opened it. The battery was dead, obviously. I found the AC adapter in the case and plugged it in. The rational part of my brain spoke up again. This is snooping. This is her property. You're violating her privacy. The other part said, she violated your bank account, your marriage, your trust, and something about this doesn't add up. I pressed the power button. The laptop wheezed to life with the grinding sound of a hard drive that hadn't spun in years. The Dell logo appeared, then a Windows 7 login screen, password protected. I tried the obvious ones, her birthday, the kids' birthdays, our anniversary. Nothing. Her maiden name. Her mother's name. Nothing. I sat back. Of course it was locked. This was a 12-year-old work laptop. She probably didn't even remember the password. This whole thing was probably a waste of... Wait. I leaned forward again. Below the password field was a small text link. Jennifer Foster. Last login, April 18th, 2024. I read it again. April 18th, 2024, 6 weeks ago. My hands went cold. This wasn't a forgotten laptop gathering dust in some corporate storage room. Jennifer had used this. Recently. While I was at work, while the kids were at school, she'd powered up this ancient machine and logged in. Why? You don't use a 12-year-old laptop for Facebook or online shopping. You don't boot up a Windows 7 dinosaur to check email when you have a perfectly good iPhone and iPad. You use an old laptop for one reason, because you want to keep something separate. Something you don't want on your regular devices. Something you don't want syncing to the cloud, showing up in browser history, or getting backed up to iCloud. I tried a few more passwords. Her old work email format. The name of her college sorority. Nothing worked. Then I remembered something. Years ago, maybe 10 years ago, I'd helped her set up online banking. She'd wanted to use the same password for everything, so she wouldn't forget. And I'd told her that was a terrible security practice. We'd compromised. She'd use variations of the same base password. Our street name when we first got married, Maple. I typed Maple 2012. The login screen disappeared. The desktop loaded. It was sparse, no personal photos, no clutter. Just a few folders and icons arranged with the kind of deliberate organization that suggested someone who knew exactly what they were doing. My documents, my pictures, recycle bin. And one folder labeled MT Personal Files. I clicked it. Inside were spreadsheets. Lots of them. Excel files with names like Q1 2024, Q2 2024, client accounts, current, expense reports, Jan Opper. I opened the most recent one, Q2 2024.xlsx. It took a moment for the file to load, Excel 2010 grinding through calculations. When it finally appeared, I had to read it 3 times before my brain would accept what I was seeing. It was a sales commission report. The kind I generated every quarter for my own job. Territory assignments, client accounts, sales figures, commission rates, payment schedules. But these weren't my accounts. And they weren't from 12 years ago. These were current. This quarter. April through June 2024. The territory was listed as Northeast Cardiac, Region 7. The clients were hospitals and medical practices I'd never heard of. Philadelphia General, Temple University Hospital, Jefferson Health System. And the sales rep name at the top of the report, Jennifer L. Foster, Employee ID MTX2847. The same employee ID from the asset tag on the laptop. My wife hadn't left MedTech Solutions 12 years ago. She'd never stopped working there. I scrolled down. Row after row of sales figures, commission calculations, expense reimbursements. Hotel stays in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Harrisburg. Mileage logs. Client dinner expenses. Everything coded and categorized with the precision of someone who'd been doing this for years. The total commission for Q2 was listed at the bottom, $47,490. I opened the Q1 file. Same format. Different numbers. Commission total, $52,340. I went back further. 2023, 2022, 2021. Every quarter, like clockwork. Sales reports, commission statements, expense reimbursements. Some quarters higher, some lower, but always substantial. Always 5 figures. I did the math in my head. Rough estimate, conservative. She was pulling in $180,000 to $200,000 a year. For 12 years. While I thought she was a stay-at-home mom. While I worked 60-hour weeks to support the family. While she told me we needed to be careful with money. That things were tight. That we should wait on the kitchen renovation. I sat back from the laptop, my hands shaking. The book club meetings. The gym. The errands that took all afternoon. Grammy watching the kids so Jennifer could have some me time. She'd been working. Not having an affair, or not just having an affair. She'd been maintaining a full-time sales career, traveling to clients, closing deals, earning commissions, and hiding every penny. I opened another folder. Banking, personal. More spreadsheets. Account numbers I didn't recognize. Deposits matching the commission figures, withdrawals, transfers. One file was labeled distributions.xlsx. I clicked it. The spreadsheet showed monthly transfers. Always the same amount, $6,500. Always to the same account, listed only as operating account, MM. The transfers went back years. $78,000 a year, every year, like clockwork. I grabbed my phone and pulled up our bank statements. Our real bank statements. The joint account I thought contained our family's finances. The $4,000 withdrawal in March. The $3,000 in April. Those weren't anomalies. Those were just the tip of something much, much larger. My wife had a second life, a second career, a second income. And she'd been funding someone, whoever that was, with enough money to buy a luxury car every year. I heard a car door slam outside. I closed the laptop and sat there in the silence of my home office, listening to the sound of my own breathing. The front door opened downstairs, Jennifer's voice calling out cheerfully, asking if anyone was home. My hands were shaking. 15 years of marriage, and I was sitting here with evidence that my wife had been living a double life for 12 of them. Danny, you home? I needed to think. I needed time to process this, to figure out what the hell I was going to do. But more than that, I needed to know who was. Because $78,000 a year doesn't just disappear into thin air. That kind of money goes somewhere specific, to someone specific. Up here, I called back, surprised at how normal my voice sounded. Just finishing up some work. Okay, I'm going to start dinner. I heard her footsteps moving toward the kitchen, heard the refrigerator open and close, the sounds of domesticity, of a wife preparing a meal for her family. Except nothing about this was domestic anymore. Nothing was what I thought it was. I opened the laptop again, going back through those bank statements with fresh eyes. The transfers to were like clockwork, the 15th of every month, never varying by more than a day or two. $6,500 every single time. I scrolled back further, watching the pattern extend backward through the years. 3 years of statements available online, and every single month, There it was. But there were other transactions too, ones I'd glossed over in my initial shock. Purchases at high-end restaurants in cities I recognized from Jennifer's supposed book club schedule. A charge for $3,200 at some place called Riverside Jewelers in Columbus. Another for $1,800 at a men's clothing store. Mitchell & Sons Fine Apparel. Men's clothing. I sat back in my chair, feeling something cold settle in my chest. The pieces were starting to fit together in a way I really didn't like. I pulled out my phone and did a quick search for Riverside Jewelers. Their website loaded, showing elegant displays of watches, cufflinks, rings. I clicked on the watch section and felt my stomach drop. The cheapest option was $2,500. For $3,200, she could have bought a very nice men's watch. Mitchell & Sons was the same story. Custom suits, Italian leather shoes, the kind of place where you went to drop serious money on looking good. My wife was buying expensive gifts for someone. Someone she was sending $6,500 to every month. Someone identified only as MM. I heard footsteps on the stairs and quickly closed the laptop, shoving it to the side of my desk just as Jennifer appeared in the doorway. She was still in her yoga pants and tank top, her hair pulled back, looking exactly like the woman I'd kissed goodbye this morning, the woman I thought I knew. "Hey," she said, smiling. "Rough day?" "Long one," I said. "Big presentation tomorrow." "Well, dinner will be ready in about 30 minutes. Chicken stir-fry okay?" "Perfect." She lingered in the doorway for a moment, and I wondered if she could see it on my face. The knowledge, the betrayal, the barely controlled anger that was building in my chest like pressure in a sealed container. "You sure you're okay?" she asked. "You look a little pale." "Just tired. I'll be down in a few." She nodded and disappeared back down the stairs. I waited until I heard her in the kitchen again before I opened the laptop one more time. I needed more information before I confronted her. Because once I showed my hand, there would be no going back. This would either end with an explanation that somehow made sense, though I couldn't imagine what that would be, or it would end with lawyers and divorce papers and our kids' lives being torn apart. I went back to her email, searching for anything related to those purchases. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. A confirmation email from Riverside Jewelers, dated 6 months ago. I opened it and read the details. "Thank you for your purchase of one Omega Seamaster Professional, model 210-30-42-20-01 Zhao Xiao 1. Your personalized engraving to M. Forever yours. J. Will be completed within 48 hours. Forever yours." The words hit me like a physical blow. I'd given Jennifer jewelry over the years, a nice watch for our 10th anniversary, a diamond pendant for her birthday, but I'd never had anything engraved "Forever yours." That was the language of romance, of passion, of something deeper than a business relationship or a friendship. I kept digging, my hands moving mechanically across the keyboard while my brain tried to process what I was finding. More emails, more receipts. A weekend getaway to a bed and breakfast in wine country. $200 for 2 nights. Flowers delivered to an address I didn't recognize. Dinner reservations for 2 at restaurants with Michelin stars. And then I found the text messages. They were in a separate folder in her email, backed up from her phone. Months of conversations with someone saved in her contacts as M. Peterson, client. But these weren't business discussions. These were intimate, detailed messages about meeting times and hotel rooms and how much she'd missed him. "Can't wait to see you Tuesday. I've been thinking about you all week. The watch is perfect. You're perfect. I don't know what I'd do without you. He's traveling again next week. We could have the whole weekend." She was talking about me. I was the obstacle, the inconvenience to be worked around. I scrolled through message after message, each one worse than the last. Declarations of love. Plans for a future together. Complaints about her situation at home and how she was working on it. Working on it. Like our marriage was a problem to be solved, an obstacle to be removed. There was a knock on my office door and I nearly jumped out of my chair. "Dinner's ready," Jennifer called through the door. "Be right there." I closed the laptop again, But this time I opened my desk drawer and pulled out my phone charger. I connected it to the laptop and then to my phone, opening the photo app. I started taking pictures, screenshots of the bank statements, the emails, the text messages, everything. My hands were steadier now, my mind shifting into a different mode. This wasn't about emotion anymore. This was about documentation, about building a case. Because if Jennifer thought she could lie to me for 12 years, could steal from her company to fund an affair, could plan a future with someone else while sleeping in my bed every night, she was about to learn that I wasn't the fool she apparently thought I was. I took dozens of photos, making sure every detail was captured, every transaction documented. The transfers to the gift purchases, the hotel stays, the text messages that left no doubt about what was happening. When I was done, I backed up everything to my cloud storage, then sent copies to my personal email account. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I opened a new email and typed in the address I'd found on MedTech Solutions' website, compliance.medtechsolutions.com. I didn't send it, not yet. But I drafted the message laying out what I'd found. The secret employment. The financial transfers that suggested embezzlement. The evidence of an affair that might involve company resources. "Danny, food's getting cold." "Coming." I saved the draft and closed the laptop. Then I stood up, straightened my shirt, and headed downstairs to have dinner with my wife. The woman who'd been lying to me for 12 years. The woman who was planning a future with someone else. The woman who had no idea that her entire, carefully constructed double life was about to come crashing down around her. I sat through dinner like a man watching a play he'd already seen. Jennifer served lasagna. Homemade, she emphasized, though I now wondered if she'd actually picked it up from Carrabba's on her way home from wherever she really spent her days. Emma talked about her upcoming science fair project. Tyler complained about his math homework. Normal. Everything so devastatingly normal. "You're quiet tonight," Jennifer said, reaching across the table to touch my hand. "Rough day?" I looked at her fingers on mine, the same hand that had typed, "I can't wait to feel you again," to someone whose initials she'd had engraved on a $3,000 watch. "Just thinking about work," I said. "Big presentation next week." She smiled that warm, supportive smile I'd fallen in love with 16 years ago. "You'll kill it. You always do." The kids cleared their plates. Jennifer stood to load the dishwasher, and I watched her move around our kitchen in those yoga pants and that fitted tank top, blonde ponytail swinging. How many times had this exact scene played out while she was living an entirely separate life? "Mom, can I go to Kayla's house tomorrow after school?" Emma asked. "Of course, sweetie. I'll pick you up at 6. "Actually," I said, my voice steady, "I was thinking we could have a family night tomorrow. Just the 4 of us." Jennifer's hands paused on the dishwasher door. "Just for a second." "That sounds nice. I'll make tacos." "Perfect." I stood, kissed the top of Emma's head, ruffled Tyler's hair. "I've got some emails to catch up on. I'll be in the office." Back upstairs, I returned to the laptop. The compliance report sat in my drafts folder, but I wasn't ready to send it yet. I needed to understand the full scope first. If Jennifer had been embezzling, and those transfers to M. Peterson suggested she might have been, I needed ironclad evidence. I opened her email again and started searching for anything related to Peterson. The results came back fast. Too fast. Hundreds of emails spanning years. My stomach dropped as I started reading. The earliest ones were professional. 5 years ago, someone named Mitchell Peterson had been assigned to Jennifer's territory as a junior sales rep. She'd been his mentor, helping him learn the cardiac medication line, introducing him to key accounts. The emails were cordial, appropriate. "Great job on the St. Vincent's presentation. Thanks for covering my appointments while I was out sick." Then, about 3 years ago, the tone shifted. "Drinks after the regional meeting? Just us?" I can't stop thinking about yesterday. "My hotel room, 8 p.m. You know you want to." I had to stop reading. My hands were shaking. 3 years. She'd been sleeping with this guy for 3 years, and he was her subordinate. That alone was a fireable offense, a massive ethics violation. But it got worse. I found an email from 18 months ago with the subject line, Territory Reassignment Proposal. Jennifer had written a formal request to upper management recommending that Mitchell Peterson be given control of several of her highest value accounts, hospitals that she'd spent years cultivating, relationships worth hundreds of thousands in commission. The justification was that she wanted to focus on new business development in underserved markets. But attached to that email was a draft she'd never sent, one she'd apparently kept in her personal folders. The real version. The one where she admitted she was shifting accounts to Peterson so they could split the commissions while she did minimal actual work. A kickback scheme, essentially. He'd handle the accounts, they'd both get paid, and she'd have more free time. Free time for what? For him, obviously. For their affair. I kept digging. Found expense reports where she'd charged personal items to the company card. Dinners at expensive restaurants on nights I'd been out of town, hotel rooms in cities where MedTech had no clients, a weekend trip to Charleston that she'd told me was a girls' trip with her book club friends. Except there was no book club. And there were no girlfriends. Just Mitchell Peterson and a trail of fraudulent expense reports. The amounts weren't huge, $50 here, $200 there, but they added up. Over 3 years, I estimated she'd charged at least $30,000 in personal expenses to MedTech's accounts. Combined with the commission splitting scheme, she'd defrauded her employer of 6 figures. Easy. And those monthly transfers? I found the explanation in an email from 8 months ago. Mitchell Peterson had apparently gotten himself into some financial trouble, gambling debts, from what I could piece together. Jennifer had started sending him money. $6,500 a month, like clockwork. Just until you get back on your feet, she'd written. I can't let them hurt you. My wife was bankrolling her affair partner's gambling addiction with money she'd earned through fraud. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. The scale of the deception was staggering. This wasn't just an affair. This wasn't even just embezzlement. This was systematic, calculated corruption spanning years. And she'd done it all while playing the devoted stay-at-home mother, while letting me believe I was supporting our family alone, while accepting my gratitude for her sacrifice in giving up her career. A notification popped up on the laptop screen. A calendar reminder. Lunch with M. Bella Vista, 12:30 p.m. Tomorrow. She had a lunch date with him tomorrow. I checked her current location on the Find My Friends app we'd set up years ago for safety. She was at the gym, just like she'd said. Except now I wondered if she was really at the gym, or if that was just another convenient lie, another piece of the elaborate fiction she'd constructed. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Forgot to mention, I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow at noon. Routine checkup. Should be home by 2. A doctor's appointment. Right. I typed back, no problem, hope everything's fine. 3 dots appeared, then, always is, love you. Love you. 2 words she'd typed 1,000 times, and they meant nothing. Less than nothing. They were just another tool in her arsenal of deception, another way to keep me compliant and unsuspecting while she lived her real life somewhere else. I forwarded the calendar entry to my personal email. Then I took screenshots of everything, the emails with Peterson, the expense reports, the territory reassignment documents, the bank transfers. I created a new folder on my personal cloud storage and uploaded it all. Organized it by category, affair evidence, financial fraud, ethics violations. The compliance report in my drafts folder suddenly seemed inadequate. This wasn't just something to threaten her with. This was evidence of multiple crimes: fraud, embezzlement, possibly wire fraud given the interstate nature of some of the transactions. But here's what I realized as I sat there in my home office, in the house I'd bought with money I'd earned honestly. I didn't just want her to lose her job. I didn't just want a divorce. I wanted her to face the full consequences of what she'd done. She'd stolen from her company. She'd stolen from me. Not just my trust, but actual years of my life. Years I'd spent working 60-hour weeks while she played house and pretended to sacrifice. She'd put our family at risk because when this came out, and it would come out, the legal and financial fallout would be catastrophic. And Mitchell Peterson? He was complicit in all of it. The affair, the fraud, the commission scheme. He'd probably lose his job, too, maybe face charges of his own. I opened a new document and started writing. Not a compliance report this time. A timeline. Every piece of evidence, dated and sourced. Every fraudulent expense report. Every email that proved the affair. Every bank transfer. I worked until 2 in the morning, building an airtight case. Jennifer came upstairs around 11, poked her head into the office. Coming to bed soon? I minimized the window. Just finishing up. Go ahead without me. She crossed the room, kissed my cheek. Don't work too hard. You need your rest. I could smell her perfume, the expensive one I'd bought her for Christmas. I wondered if she wore it for him too. I'll be up soon, I said. When I finally crawled into bed beside her at 2:30, she was asleep, or pretending to be. I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe, and thought about tomorrow. About her lunch with Mitchell Peterson at Bella Vista while I was supposedly ignorant, supposedly at work, supposedly still the trusting husband who believed in doctor's appointments and book clubs and 15 years of happy marriage. I thought about confronting her, laying out the evidence, watching her face as she realized I knew everything. But that would give her time to prepare, time to lawyer up, time to warn Peterson and maybe destroy evidence. No, I had a better plan. Tomorrow, I'd let her go to her lunch. I'd let her think she was still safe, still in control. And while she was sitting across from her lover at Bella Vista, I'd be doing something else entirely. I'd be making copies of everything and hand-delivering them to 3 places: MedTech Solutions Fraud Department, my divorce attorney, and the district attorney's office. By the time Jennifer came home from her doctor's appointment, her entire carefully constructed world would already be crumbling. She'd just be the last to know. The rest of that day passed in a kind of crystalline clarity. Every sound seemed sharper, every color more vivid. I moved through the house like a ghost, touching things that had once felt permanent. The kitchen counter where we'd shared coffee every morning, the couch where we'd watched movies with the kids, the framed wedding photo in the hallway where Jennifer smiled at me like I was the only man in the world. All of it contaminated now. All of it lies. I spent the afternoon in my home office with the door locked, creating 3 separate folders of evidence. Physical copies, because I didn't trust anything digital not to disappear. Bank statements showing the mysterious withdrawals. Screenshots of emails between Jennifer and Mitchell, printed in chronological order. Credit card statements highlighting the personal charges to her company card. The commission transfer records that showed exactly how much money she'd been funneling to her lover. The math was staggering. $78,000 a year for 3 years in direct payments. Another $30,000 in fraudulent company expenses. The gifts. God, the gifts. The Omega watch alone was $8,000. Designer suits, shoes, weekend trips to hotels I couldn't afford on my 6-figure salary. And she'd done it all with my money. Our money. Money I'd earned traveling 3 states, sleeping in Hampton Inns, working 60-hour weeks while she played house and pretended to clip coupons. My hands shook as I organized the documents. Not from fear. From rage so pure, it felt like electricity in my veins. At 3:15, I heard Jennifer's car in the driveway. The familiar sound of her key in the lock. Her voice calling out, "I'm home." I took a breath, saved everything on the laptop, and walked downstairs. She was in the kitchen, unloading groceries. Whole Foods bags, of course. Jennifer only bought organic. Had to maintain that yoga-toned figure for Mitchell. "Hey," she said, glancing up with that smile. The one I'd fallen in love with 16 years ago. "How was your day?" "Productive," I said. "Got a lot done." "That's good." She pulled out a container of strawberries, examined them critically. "I was thinking we could grill tonight. Maybe salmon? The kids love it." I watched her move around the kitchen. This woman who'd shared my bed for 15 years, who'd given birth to my children, who'd systematically stolen from her employer and betrayed every promise we'd ever made to each other. "Sounds perfect," I said. She looked at me then, really looked, and for just a second something flickered across her face. Uncertainty, maybe. Or suspicion. You okay? She asked. You seem, I don't know, off. Just tired. Long week. The moment passed. She smiled again, turned back to the groceries. Well, go relax. I'll handle dinner. I went back upstairs. Sat in my office and listened to her move around below me, humming something under her breath. Probably thinking about tomorrow's lunch with Mitchell. Probably planning what to wear, what lies to tell me about where she'd be. At 5:30, the kids got home. Tyler burst through the door first, already talking about some YouTube video he'd watched at his friend's house. Emma followed, quieter, earbuds in. Dad! Tyler launched himself at me as I came down the stairs. Can we play Fortnite after dinner? Maybe, I said, ruffling his hair. Depends on homework. Already did it at aftercare. Then yeah, buddy, we can play. He grinned, gap-toothed and innocent, and something in my chest cracked. He had no idea. Neither of them did. They thought they lived in a normal house with normal parents who loved each other. Dinner was surreal. Jennifer had made the salmon, along with roasted vegetables and wild rice. We sat around the table like a magazine photo of the American family. Emma talked about her upcoming field trip to the Science Museum. Tyler demonstrated, with elaborate hand gestures, how to do some kind of building technique in Minecraft. Jennifer laughed at all the right moments, touched my hand across the table, asked about my presentation next week in Cleveland. I played along, smiled, answered questions, complimented the food. All the while, I was thinking about the emails on her laptop upstairs. The ones where she called Mitchell baby and my love. The ones where she complained about being stuck in a loveless marriage with a husband who didn't understand her. 15 years. 2 children. A mortgage. A life. Loveless. After dinner, I kept my promise to Tyler. We played Fortnite for an hour while Jennifer helped Emma with some math homework. I let him win twice, listened to his excited commentary about skins and battle passes and things I didn't really understand. Normal. Everything so goddamn normal. At 8:30, we did bedtime. Jennifer read to Tyler, some book about dragons, while I checked in with Emma. She was getting to that age where she didn't want to talk much, but we managed a few minutes of conversation about her friend drama at school. Love you, Dad, she said when I turned off her light. Love you too, sweetheart. By 9, the house was quiet. Jennifer was in the living room scrolling through her phone on the couch. Probably texting Mitchell, making plans for tomorrow. I sat down next to her, close enough that our legs touched. She looked up, surprised. We hadn't sat like this in months, maybe longer. I'd been too busy with work. She'd been too busy with her secret life. What's up? She asked. Nothing. Just wanted to be near you. Something shifted in her expression. Guilt, maybe. Or the memory of what we used to be, before she decided to throw it all away for a junior sales rep with gambling debts. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I miss this, she said softly. The words should have hurt. Instead, they just felt empty. Like everything else she'd said to me for the past 3 years. Me too, I lied. We sat there for maybe 20 minutes, her scrolling through her phone, me staring at the TV without really seeing it. Playing house one last time. At 10, she yawned. I'm beat. Coming to bed? In a bit. Want to check some emails? She kissed my cheek, a quick, habitual gesture, and headed upstairs. I waited until I heard the bedroom door close, then pulled out my own phone. 3 contacts to call tomorrow. I had the numbers ready. First, Robert Atkins, divorce attorney. Came highly recommended by a guy I'd worked with whose wife had cheated. Specialized in high-asset divorces with fraud components. Second, MedTech Solutions Corporate Fraud Hotline. Anonymous reporting. I'd found the number on their website, buried in the compliance section. Third, the district attorney's office. Because this wasn't just an affair or even just embezzlement. This was wire fraud, possibly tax evasion, definitely theft. Criminal charges that could put Jennifer behind bars. I'd made the appointments carefully. Atkins at 9 a.m., the fraud hotline at 10, the DA's office at 11. Jennifer's lunch with Mitchell was at noon. She'd told me this morning she had book club tomorrow at 12:30. Going to be gone a couple hours. By the time she sat down with her lover, her entire world would already be burning. I went upstairs at 10:30. Jennifer was already asleep or pretending to be. I got ready for bed in the dark, moving quietly. Slipped under the covers on my side, careful not to touch her. She stirred. "Daniel? Yeah? Everything okay?" "Everything's fine. Go back to sleep." She made a soft sound, already drifting off again. Within minutes, her breathing had evened out. I lay there in the dark, listening to my wife sleep. Tomorrow, this would all be over. The lies, the pretending, the perfect facade we'd built together, or that I'd built while she systematically dismantled everything behind my back. Tomorrow, Jennifer Foster would discover that some prices are too high to pay, and that some debts always come due. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those messages. Jennifer's words to Mitchell, dripping with affection she hadn't shown me in years. The financial records scrolling past like evidence of a crime I'd been funding without knowing it. At 3:47 a.m., I gave up on sleep entirely and went downstairs. The house felt different now. Every family photo on the wall a lie, every piece of furniture purchased with money that should have been ours. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table where, just yesterday morning, Jennifer had served me blueberry pancakes while planning to meet her lover for lunch. The laptop sat in my briefcase, exactly where I'd hidden it after my discovery. I'd transferred everything to a secure cloud drive and my personal email, screenshots, financial records, messages, photos, everything. The kind of documentation that destroys lives. My phone showed 4:12 a.m., 5 hours until my meeting with Robert Atkins. I should have felt something. Rage, maybe. The kind of explosive anger that makes men do stupid things. But I didn't. Instead, I felt cold, calculating. 15 years of marriage, and it turned out I'd been living with a stranger who happened to share my last name and my bed. The coffee tasted like ash. At 6:30, I heard movement upstairs. Jennifer's alarm. She'd be down in 20 minutes, freshly showered, probably wearing those yoga pants that cost $120 a pair. Bought with what money? Mine? Hers? Mitchell's gambling debts that she'd been covering? I opened my laptop, my actual work laptop, and pretended to review a presentation on our new cardiac medication line. She appeared at 6:52, right on schedule. Hair still damp, minimal makeup, looking exactly like the woman I'd married. The woman who didn't exist. "You're up early," she said, heading for the coffee pot. "Couldn't sleep. Big presentation today in Cleveland." A lie. I had no presentation. I had 3 meetings that would end her life as she knew it. "You work too hard." She poured her coffee, added the expensive vanilla creamer she preferred. Another small luxury I'd never questioned. "When's your flight?" "Driving. Need to be on the road by 8. She nodded, sipping her coffee. "I've got that thing with the PTA this morning, then lunch with the book club girls." Book club. Right? Where she'd be meeting Mitchell Peterson to discuss whatever married woman discussed with the junior sales rep they're bankrolling. "What are you reading this month?" I asked. The question caught her off guard. I never asked about book club. Why would I? I trusted my wife. "Oh, it's a mystery. Something about a woman who discovers her husband isn't who he says he is." She laughed. "Pretty ironic, actually. The whole group is finding it a bit predictable." I bet they were. "Sounds interesting," I said, my voice flat. She looked at me then. Really looked. "Are you okay? You seem off." "Just tired. Didn't sleep well." "Maybe you should take something. I have those sleeping pills from last year." The ones she'd gotten when she claimed stress from managing the household was keeping her awake. Stress from juggling 2 lives, more likely. "I'm fine. Just need to get through today." Emma came down at 7:15, followed by Tyler 10 minutes later. I made them breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, nothing fancy, while Jennifer packed their lunches. We moved around each other in the kitchen like we had 1,000 times before, a choreographed dance of domesticity. "Dad, can you help me with my math homework tonight?" Tyler asked through a mouthful of eggs. Tonight. By tonight, their mother might be in police custody. "I'll be back late, buddy. Maybe this weekend?" "You're always back late," he mumbled. Jennifer shot me a look. "Your father works very hard for this family." The hypocrisy burned. She worked hard too, hard at defrauding her employer, hard at maintaining her affair, hard at keeping me in the dark. "I know," Tyler said. "It's okay." It wasn't okay. None of this was okay. At 7:45, I kissed both kids goodbye. Emma barely looked up from her phone. Tyler gave me a quick hug. Normal Tuesday morning. Jennifer walked me to the door like she always did. "Drive safe," she said, rising on her toes to kiss me. I let her. One last kiss from the woman I'd loved for 16 years. The woman who'd been stealing from her company to keep another man afloat. "You too," I said. "Enjoy book club." Something flickered in her eyes. Suspicion? Guilt? I couldn't tell anymore. I backed out of the driveway at 7:52. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing in the doorway watching me leave. She lifted her hand in a small wave. I didn't wave back. Robert Atkins' office was in a restored Victorian downtown, the kind of place that screamed old money and discretion. I'd found him through a colleague who'd gone through a nasty divorce 3 years ago. "Ruthless but ethical," my colleague had said. "Exactly what you need when your world goes to hell." The receptionist, a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair, showed me into a conference room at 8:55. "Mr. Atkins will be right with you. Coffee? Water?" "Coffee, black." She returned with a porcelain cup, real china, not the disposable stuff, and left me alone with my thoughts. I'd brought everything. The laptop, though I'd leave that for the authorities. Printed copies of the financial records, the messages, the photos. A timeline I'd constructed showing Jennifer's employment history, the affair, the escalating fraud. 300 pages of documentation that painted a picture of systematic deception. Robert Atkins entered at exactly 9 a.m. Mid-50s, gray suit, the kind of handshake that communicated competence without trying to prove anything. "Mr. Foster, thank you for coming in." He sat across from me, opening a leather portfolio. "Your message mentioned some urgency regarding a divorce filing?" "My wife has been lying to me for 12 years about working. She's been having an affair for 3 years, and she's been embezzling from her employer to fund her boyfriend's gambling habit." Atkins's expression didn't change. "I see. And you have documentation?" I slid the first folder across the table. He spent the next 40 minutes reading in silence. Occasionally he'd make a note or ask me to clarify a date, but mostly he just read. His face remained professionally neutral, but I saw his jaw tighten when he reached the messages between Jennifer and Mitchell. Finally, he looked up. "This is comprehensive," he said. "Very comprehensive. You've clearly put significant thought into documentation. I'm in sales. I understand the importance of proof." "Indeed," he tapped the folder. "Let me be direct, Mr. Foster. What you've shown me represents multiple felonies. Fraud, embezzlement, potentially wire fraud given the electronic transfers. Your wife is facing serious criminal exposure." "I know. Are you planning to report this to the authorities?" "I have a meeting with MedTech Solutions Fraud Hotline in 45 minutes. District Attorney's Office at 11. He nodded slowly. "Then my question is this. What do you want from me?" "I want a divorce. I want primary custody of my children. And I want to make sure that when this goes to court, the judge understands exactly who my wife is." "The criminal charges will certainly impact custody proceedings," Atkins said. "No judge will grant primary custody to someone facing felony fraud charges. But I need to ask, are you certain you want to pursue this path? Once you make that call to MedTech, there's no going back." "I'm certain." "And the children? They're going to be caught in the middle of this." "They're already in the middle of it. They just don't know it yet." Atkins closed the folder. "All right, Here's what we're going to do. The price of deception. Conclusion. The MedTech Solutions. Fraud hotline took my call at 10:03 a.m. I sat in my car in a Target parking lot, watching people go about their normal Tuesday, buying groceries, returning items, living lives that weren't imploding, while I destroyed mine. This is the confidential fraud reporting line. All calls are recorded. How can I help you? I took a breath. I have evidence of employee fraud, embezzlement, and ethics violations spanning approximately 3 years. Can you provide the employee's name and ID number? Jennifer Foster, employee ID MTX2847. There was a pause. Typing. Ms. Foster is listed as inactive in our system. She left the company in 2012. That's what she wants you to believe. She's been working this entire time, falsifying her employment status and splitting commissions with Mitchell Peterson while filing fraudulent expense reports. More typing. Longer pause. Sir, these are serious allegations. Do you have documentation? 3 years of bank statements showing systematic transfers, emails detailing the commission-splitting arrangement, expense reports for personal charges, screenshots of messages between Foster and Peterson discussing the scheme. I can send everything electronically or deliver hard copies in person. Please hold. Elevator music. I watched a young mother wrestle a toddler into a shopping cart. The kid was screaming about wanting a toy. Simple problems. Normal problems. A new voice came on the line. Male, older, authoritative. This is Gerald Brennan, Director of Corporate Compliance. I understand you're reporting potential fraud involving one of our sales representatives. I went through it again. More details this time. The laptop that had been sent to our house. That was sent in error, Brennan interrupted. Asset recovery flagged the wrong employee record. It should have gone to a Jennifer Foster in our Philadelphia office who recently retired. Convenient error, I said. But it led me to discover that my wife has been maintaining her employment without your knowledge, manipulating territory assignments, and defrauding the company of approximately 6 figures over 3 years. Your wife? Yes, I'm Daniel Foster, Jennifer's husband, and I'm handing you evidence of systematic corporate fraud on a silver platter. Silence. Then, Mr. Foster, I'm going to need you to send everything you have to a secure email address I'm about to provide, and I'll need you to come in for a formal statement. I have a meeting with the district attorney's office at 11. I can come to your Philadelphia headquarters tomorrow morning. That works. Mr. Foster, if what you're saying is accurate, you understand this will likely result in criminal charges against your wife? I'm counting on it. The DA's meeting was worse. Not because they didn't believe me, the evidence was too solid for that, but because of what came next. Assistant District Attorney Lisa Brennan, no relation to MedTech's Gerald, apparently, was a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and sharper questions. Wire fraud, embezzlement, filing false tax returns. These charges carry significant prison time, she said, reviewing my documentation. We're talking 5 to 10 years minimum, possibly more depending on the total amount involved. I understand. And you're the one bringing this to us, her husband. Yes? Mr. Foster, I have to ask, what's your endgame here? Because this feels personal. It is personal. She lied to me for 12 years. She stole from her company. She betrayed every promise we made to each other. And she did it all while letting me believe I was supporting our family alone. Brennan leaned back in her chair. I'm not unsympathetic, but you need to understand what you're setting in motion. Your wife will be arrested, probably within the week. She'll be arraigned, possibly held on bail. Your children will see their mother in handcuffs. The media will cover this. Pharmaceutical fraud is always newsworthy. Your family will be destroyed. My family is already destroyed. I'm just making sure everyone else knows it too. She studied me for a long moment. All right, we'll open an investigation. I'll coordinate with MedTech's legal team and the FBI's white-collar crime division. Expect this to move quickly once we verify the documentation. It was 12:17 p.m. when I left the DA's office. Jennifer would be at Bella Vista now, sitting across from Mitchell Peterson, probably holding his hand under the table. Probably telling him how much she loved him, how they'd figure out a way to be together. She had no idea that in 3 different offices across the city, people were building a criminal case that would send her to federal prison. I drove home, slowly, taking side streets instead of the highway, delaying the inevitable moment when I'd have to walk into that house and pretend everything was normal for a few more hours. Jennifer's car was in the driveway when I arrived at 2:43 p.m. Early. She wasn't supposed to be home until after 3. I found her in the kitchen, unloading groceries. She looked up when I entered, surprised. "You're home early," she said. "How was Cleveland?" For a moment, just a moment, I considered telling her everything, laying it all out, watching her face as she realized what I'd done. But I didn't. Because Robert Atkins had been clear. Don't confront her until after the arrest. Let her think she's safe. It'll make the divorce proceedings cleaner. "Meeting got rescheduled," I said. "Client emergency." "Oh, well, I'm glad you're home." She smiled, that same warm smile. "I got stuff for tacos tonight. The kids love Taco Tuesday." I watched her put away organic vegetables and expensive cheese. Watched her move through our kitchen like she belonged there, like she hadn't spent the last 3 hours with another man. "How was book club?" I asked. "Good. We're reading this thriller about a woman who discovers her husband has a secret life. Pretty gripping, actually." The irony was suffocating. My phone buzzed. A text from Robert Atkins. "Divorce papers filed. You'll be served simultaneously with her arrest warrant. Probably Friday." 3 days. I had to maintain this charade for 3 more days. "Sounds interesting," I said. That night, we had tacos. Emma complained about a girl at school. Tyler showed me a drawing he'd made, a family portrait with stick figures holding hands. Mom, Dad, Emma, Tyler, all smiling. I put it on the refrigerator with a magnet. Wednesday and Thursday passed in a blur. Jennifer went to the gym. I went to work. We had dinner together, watched TV, played with the kids. Normal. Everything so devastatingly normal. Thursday night, she initiated intimacy. I couldn't do it. Made an excuse about being tired, stressed about work. She looked hurt, but didn't push. I lay awake next to her, listening to her breathe, thinking about how this was probably the last night we'd ever spend in the same bed. Friday morning arrived with gray skies and the threat of rain. I got the kids ready for school while Jennifer made breakfast. Pancakes again. Like she was trying to recapture something that had died years ago. "I have errands today," she said as I gathered my briefcase. "Might be gone most of the afternoon." Meeting Mitchell, probably. One last rendezvous before her world ended. "Okay, I'll be home normal time." I kissed the kids goodbye. Didn't kiss Jennifer. She noticed. I saw her frown, but didn't say anything. At 10:47 a.m., I got the call from Robert Atkins. "It's happening. FBI and local police are executing the warrant at your home in approximately 30 minutes. You should be there." "I'm on my way." I broke every speed limit getting home. Pulled into my driveway at 11:23 a.m. to find Jennifer's car there. She hadn't left for her errands yet. I walked in through the garage. Found her in the living room, on her phone. She looked up, startled. "Daniel? What are you—" The doorbell rang. We both froze. Jennifer's face went pale. "Are you expecting someone?" "No," I said. A lie. My last lie to her. The doorbell rang again. Harder. More insistent. Jennifer moved toward the door. I followed, my heart hammering. She opened it to find 4 people on our porch. 2 FBI agents in suits, 2 local police officers in uniform. "Jennifer Foster?" the lead FBI agent asked. "Yes?" "I'm Special Agent Brown with the FBI. We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of wire fraud, embezzlement, and filing false tax returns." He held up the paperwork. "You have the right to remain silent." I watched the color drain from her face. Watched her turn to me, eyes wide with shock and confusion and the dawning realization that her life was over. "Daniel? What's happening? Daniel?" The second FBI agent, a woman, was already moving Jennifer's hands behind her back. the metallic click of handcuffs. "Sir, are you Daniel Foster?" one of the local officers asked me. "Yes." "You're being served as well." He handed me papers. "Divorce petition filed by your attorney, Robert Atkins." Jennifer made a sound, something between a gasp and a sob. "You did this? You called them?" I looked at my wife, my soon-to-be ex-wife, standing in our living room in handcuffs, finally seeing me clearly for the first time in years. "You did this," I said quietly. "I just made sure you faced the consequences." They let her out. She was crying now, saying my name over and over, asking how I could do this. Didn't I love her? What about the kids? The kids. God, the kids. I called my mother before the police cars were even out of the driveway. Asked her to pick up Emma and Tyler from school, take them to her house, told her I'd explain everything later. Then I sat down in my empty house and waited for the news to break. The trial took 14 months to reach a verdict. Jennifer's attorney tried everything, claimed I'd entrapped her, that the laptop evidence was obtained illegally, that she'd been coerced into the affair by Mitchell Peterson. None of it stuck. The evidence was too solid. MedTech's internal investigation found even more fraud than I'd documented. Mitchell Peterson took a plea deal and testified against her, admitting to the commission-splitting scheme, the falsified expense reports, all of it. In the end, the jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced her to 8 years in federal prison. She'd be eligible for parole in 5. I sat in the courtroom and felt nothing. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just emptiness where 15 years of marriage used to be. Mitchell Peterson got 4 years for his cooperation. Last I heard, he was serving his time at a minimum security facility in Pennsylvania. The divorce was finalized 3 months after Jennifer's conviction. I got primary custody, sole custody actually, given her incarceration. She'd get supervised visitation once she was released, assuming she wanted it. The house sold for less than we'd hoped. The market had shifted, and the publicity around Jennifer's case hadn't helped. I took the proceeds and bought a smaller place across town. 3 bedrooms, decent school district, a fresh start. Emma took it the hardest. 12 years old, watching her mother get arrested, sitting through a trial, seeing her name in the news. She started therapy, stopped talking to me for months. Blamed me for destroying the family. Tyler was younger, more resilient, or maybe just better at hiding the damage. He asked about his mom sometimes. When could he see her? Was she okay? Did she still love him? I always said yes, she loved them. That part was real, I think. Everything else was lies, but she loved our children. Whether that love was worth anything after what she'd done, that was a question I couldn't answer. 2 years after Jennifer's arrest, I was sitting in my new kitchen, smaller than the old one, but mine, when Tyler came downstairs. He was 11 now, taller, his voice starting to change. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Always, buddy." "Why did you do it? Turn Mom in, I mean. Couldn't you have just gotten divorced?" I'd been waiting for this question, dreading it. "Come here," I said, gesturing to the chair across from me. He sat. Looked at me with eyes that were too old for his face. "Your mom didn't just cheat on me," I said carefully. "She committed crimes, stole money from her company, lied to federal investigators. If I'd just divorced her quietly, she would have kept doing it. Maybe gotten caught eventually anyway, maybe not. But either way, I would have been helping her get away with it. But she's in prison. We don't have a mom." "You have a mom. She's just paying the price for her choices." "It's not fair." "No," I agreed. "It's not fair. It's not fair that she lied to all of us. It's not fair that she chose to do things she knew were wrong. It's not fair that you and Emma are growing up with your mother in prison. None of this is fair." "Then why?" I took a breath. "Because some things matter more than keeping the peace. Honesty matters. Integrity matters. Following the law matters. And teaching you and your sister that actions have consequences, that matters too." He was quiet for a long time. Then, "Do you still love her?" "I loved who I thought she was." "The real her?" "I don't know if I ever really knew her." Tyler nodded slowly, processing this. Okay. He went back upstairs. I sat in my kitchen and wondered if I'd said the right thing. If there even was a right thing to say. Emma didn't speak to me for almost 3 years. Refused my calls when Jennifer was first arrested. Barely acknowledged me during the trial. Moved in with my mother for 6 months because she couldn't stand to be in the same house as me. But on her 16th birthday, she showed up at my door. "Can we talk?" she asked. We sat in that same kitchen. I made her favorite, chocolate chip pancakes, and waited. "I visited Mom last month," she finally said. "First time in a year." I nodded, said nothing. She told me the truth, about everything. The affair, the money, all of it. Emma's voice was steady, but her hands shook around her coffee mug. "She said you didn't do anything wrong, that she deserved what happened." "Emma, let me finish." She looked up, and I saw tears in her eyes. "I blamed you for so long, for breaking up our family, for sending her away. But she broke the family, didn't she? You just made sure everyone knew it was broken." I reached across the table, took her hand. "I'm sorry you had to go through this. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from it." "Could you have? Protected us?" "No. Once I found out what she'd done, there was no protecting you from the truth. I could only choose whether to hide it or expose it. And you chose exposure. I chose honesty, even though it hurt. Even though it cost us everything." She squeezed my hand. "I think I understand now. I don't like it, but I understand." It wasn't forgiveness, not quite. But it was a start. 5 years after Jennifer's arrest, I was dating again. Nothing serious. A woman named Rachel I'd met through work. Kind, honest, divorced with 2 kids of her own. We took things slow. Tyler was doing well. Honor roll, basketball team, normal teenage stuff. He visited Jennifer once a month at the federal facility. Came home quiet each time, but okay. Emma was applying to colleges, wanted to study psychology, maybe become a therapist. "Someone who helps families," she said. "Someone who teaches people how to be honest with each other." I thought about Jennifer sometimes. Wondered what she did all day in prison. Whether she regretted her choices or just regretted getting caught. Whether she understood that the real crime wasn't the fraud or the affair. It was the years of lies, the systematic destruction of trust, the belief that she could have it all without consequences. MedTech Solutions overhauled their compliance systems after Jennifer's case. Implemented new oversight protocols, regular audits, anonymous reporting systems. Her fraud had cost them nearly $200,000, but the reforms probably saved them millions in the long run. Small consolation. I rebuilt my life piece by piece. New house, new routines, new relationships based on honesty instead of convenient fiction. It was smaller than before, quieter. But it was real. And real, I'd learned, was worth more than perfect. Jennifer was released on parole after serving 5 years and 3 months. I didn't go to her release hearing. Emma did, with Tyler. They brought her to a halfway house in Pittsburgh, helped her settle in. She called me a week later. "Daniel, it's me." I almost hung up. But something, curiosity maybe, or the ghost of what we'd been, made me stay on the line. "How are you?" she asked. "Fine. You?" "Adjusting." A pause. "I owe you an apology, a real one, not the court-ordered kind." "Okay." "I destroyed everything. Our marriage, our family, the kids' childhood. I did that. Not you. Me." Her voice cracked. "I was selfish and stupid, and I convinced myself I deserved to have everything. You, Mitchell, the money, the secret life. And when it all came crashing down, I blamed you for not letting me get away with it." I said nothing. "But you did the right thing," she continued. "Turning me in, filing for divorce, protecting the kids from who I really was. I hated you for it. God, I hated you. But you were right. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to hear it. And because I'm trying to be honest now. Finally. Even though it's 5 years too late." We talked for 20 minutes. Not about reconciliation. That ship had sailed and sunk and been buried at sea. But about the kids, about co-parenting from a distance, about how to help Emma and Tyler navigate having a mother who was a convicted felon. It wasn't closure. Closure is a myth people tell themselves. But it was something. An acknowledgement of reality. A small step toward whatever came next. 10 years after that Tuesday when I opened a laptop and discovered my wife's secret life, I stood in a church watching Emma get married. She wore her grandmother's dress, looked radiant, chose me to walk her down the aisle despite everything. Tyler was the best man, tall and confident at 21. Jennifer sat in the back row, paroled, employed at a call center, living in a studio apartment. We'd agreed she could come. Emma had wanted her there. During the reception, Emma pulled me aside. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For teaching me what integrity looks like, even when it costs everything." I looked at my daughter, brilliant, strong, honest to her core, and felt something shift in my chest. Not pride exactly, more like peace. "You're going to be okay," I said. "I know, because you showed me how." The truth is, there's no moral to this story that makes it hurt less. No philosophical framework that justifies the destruction of a family, even when that family was built on lies. What I learned, what I'd tell anyone facing similar circumstances, is this. Honesty is not always kind. Truth is not always healing. Doing the right thing does not guarantee a happy ending. But integrity matters anyway. Because the alternative, living in a comfortable lie, pretending you don't see the betrayal, accepting fraud and deception as the price of keeping the peace, that destroys you from the inside out. It teaches your children that truth is negotiable, that consequences are optional, that love means looking the other way. I could have quietly divorced Jennifer. Could have let her keep her secret career, her affair, her fraud. Could have protected my children from the trauma of seeing their mother arrested. But then what would I have taught them? That crime is acceptable if it's committed by someone you love? That marriage vows mean nothing? That systematic deception is just something you tolerate? No. Some prices are too high to pay. And the price of my silence, my complicity in Jennifer's crimes, was higher than the price of truth. Did it hurt? God, yes. Did it damage my children? Absolutely. Will we ever fully recover? I don't know. But we'll recover as people who know the difference between right and wrong, as people who understand that actions have consequences, as people who choose honesty even when it costs everything. And in the end, that's the only legacy worth leaving. The truth will not set you free, but it will force you to live with yourself. And sometimes, that's the best you can hope for. I sleep well now. I look my children in the eye without flinching. I build relationships on honesty instead of convenient fiction. The house is smaller, the family is broken, the perfect life I thought I had turned out to be a beautiful lie. But what I have now is real. And real, I've learned, is the only thing worth having.